Hi, welcome to Bish Bosh. My name's Richard, and today we are making a giant puppet lantern. Let's do it. This is the Green Knight. I made him a couple of years ago for a show, and he did great. But he's been living in the rafters of our building since then, and it's time to retire him. So the plan is to take his skeleton and build a new lantern puppet around it.
This guy is going out as part of Stoke Lanterns 2026 and will represent a character called the Lamplighter. First, I drew this sketch, and then we gave this sketch to illustrator Kidder Kinsey, who drew this much more polished version as an animation to be projected as part of the parade. And then I used this version as the basis for the design. All our lantern builds start with the same tools and materials: snips, tape, willow, more willow, even more willow, and you know what, let's throw some more tape in there as well. So we start by taping the willow together with the masking tape. It's a really quick way to kind of build like a sketch in 3D, and you can go from nothing to a 3D shape really quickly. Basically, I'm going to try and go from no dimensions to 3 dimensions as quickly as possible. I do that by making a series of circles. I like to cross the willow with these over, so I've got a nice consistent strength across the whole structure. Careful what you get good at. I've got really good at spinning tape on my fingers and racking small pieces of tape up on the side of a table. Then once you've got 3 circles, attach all those together, you've got basically a ball, and voila, you're at 3 dimensions already. And from there, it's a pretty short distance to get to a much more complicated shape. And now we're on to the bit that I really wasn't looking forward to, which is dismantling the Green Knight puppet. Basically, what I'm doing is I'm getting in there and I'm clipping out the old bamboo structure that was holding the guy together. And when I do, I discover that there really wasn't as much skeleton in there as I thought there was. And it's going to be a much bigger job to build a new skeleton for this build. I'm going to use as much of the old stuff as I can, including this upper body frame, but there's going to be a bit more bamboo building. So for this next section, we're going to need some bamboo poles, gaffer tape, cable ties, and a hacksaw for cutting the bamboo. It's always easier to cut the bamboo with a hacksaw because you need a fine-toothed saw. The gaffer tape is really just holding the bamboo in place, and then I'm securing it with the cable ties. The gaffer tape creates friction, and the cable tie does all the heavy lifting. Once a build reaches a certain size, it's good to suspend it, get it up at elevation so that you can start working on it from all angles. This also helps to just get the puppet out of the way while I work on other stuff. Now I'm going to look at the arms. We can lose the sword. It's a good sword. We're going to put that to one side and keep it for later. And then we're going to strip the rest of the arm off. And as you can see on the inside, we've just got a little aluminium joint that I've created. With the head and the sword off, me and Dan did take a break to have a little bit of fun.
That is actually amazing. That's better than the actual thing.
You know what? This could be a performance in itself. Just like 2 or 3 of these guys running around, hitting each other with swords. I think that'd be quite funny. I don't know. What do you think? Sound off in the comments if you think this would be a good idea. Anyway, back to work. So now I'm working on the arms. I'm going to build it in sections, and I'm going to attach it to the bamboo and aluminium skeleton that we took out before. And there you go. There's a forearm. One down, another one to go. The thing about making a lantern structure with willow is it's not just structure. Every single one of these lines, when there's a light inside the lantern, will be silhouetted and will shine through. So it really is like drawing in 3 dimensions. Now that I've got the forearm and the upper arm, I can attach them to the skeleton. And as you can see, it hinges nicely around the joint there. And now the other arm, stripping it off, reclaiming that skeleton. Just need to make a couple of tweaks to the upper body, and then we can think about covering it with paper. For lantern papering, we will need PVA glue. This PVA has already been pre-mixed with water, some sponges, any old sponges will do, a plastic container for the glue mix, a pair of scissors for cutting the paper, wet strength tissue paper, and of course something to protect the table. Applying the paper to the lantern is a pretty simple process. We put the paper down on the table, we cover it with the glue, and then we're very carefully picking the pieces of paper up and we're applying it to the willow frame. Then we're going to do that about 1,000 times. Now, this is pretty important. We're not just using any old tissue paper. This is a very specific kind of tissue paper called wet strength tissue paper. It's very similar to perming paper for those who were born before the 80s. In Japan, where this kind of lantern making originated, they use rice paper. Basically, it's a type of tissue paper that doesn't just fall apart the moment it gets wet. And that's really important because it is going to get wet, and we want that glue to soak all the way through. When it dries with the PVA completely saturated through it, it actually becomes a little bit heat and fire resistant, which is how we're able to make lanterns that have real fire in. Most of our lanterns have candles. We're not going to put candles in this one. This one's going to be lit with LEDs. That's just a practical thing, the size and the shape of it, and the fact that I'm going to be underneath it and I don't want to have wax dripping on me the whole time, which would be bad and not fun. So at the moment, with the paper on it, we're losing a lot of the willow detail. But as soon as we've got a light inside, all that will shine through. With that looking good, it's over to building a hand. It's a complicated shape, but we're not going to build all the details in. Some people struggle with hands. I always find hands okay, because you always got a reference right in front of you. You just hold your hand up in the air and you go, oh yeah, that's how it's supposed to look. That's if you can work one-handed, of course. Yeah, this is bad advice. Like and subscribe for more bad advice. You know what, we skipped over this pretty quick before, so let's take another little look at the internal workings of the neck. As you can see, I've built this odd little mech using a piece of PVC pipe. It's ugly, but it does the trick, and the bamboo pole just slots in there at the top. Let's take a little look at the way the arms connect. So I'm pretty pleased with this. Basically, I've cut these sections off some old aluminium crutches, and it just clips in like that. It's just the adjustable section of the crutches, and I've attached a piece of rope, and then I've attached that piece of rope to a bamboo pole with, again, tape and cable ties, and you just get this really simple, full 360-degree range of motion, but with very little work. With a big puppet like this, it's going to go on a backpack. It's going to be operated by one person inside and underneath the puppet, controlling the head and one of the arms, and the other arm will be operated by a performer who can focus just entirely on that arm. Next thing we're going to look at is we're going to make a backpack. To do this, I'm going to need a hacksaw, I'm going to need snips, I'm going to need gaffer tape and cable ties again, and I'm going to need some webbing, some really strong strapping there. I've also got these buckles and clips and some nice thick bamboo. So we're going to saw the bamboo up into pieces, and then we're going to assemble it into a nice strong frame. That means a lot of crossed over sections and triangles. Triangles are the strongest shape. So I started out with gaffer tape, and you know what, you're never too experienced to make a mistake. I realised pretty quick the gaffer was not going to do it, and I decided to go with bicycle tyre inner tubes. We've got these old inner tubes. I cut them lengthways and cleaned them up a little bit. These are great for creating friction. Same thing that the gaffer tape is doing. I'm going to wrap it around nice and tight on the bamboo. I really wanted to make a bamboo backpack. Did a gig in Mexico last year, and I wanted to replicate a bamboo backpack that I'd made over there, sort of out of necessity at the time, but it worked really well, so I wanted to give it another go. The other thing that I discovered as I was going along is that when crossing the bamboo over, it created a wobbly frame. The best thing to do here was to have two different layers of crossed over bamboo, and that meant I needed a little piece of wooden batten just to adjust the levels there. And you know what, this is holding it pretty well on its own, but just for that extra level of security, I'm going to put some cable ties on it anyway. And as you can see, we have a nice strong frame. Now all that's required is for me to make some straps, and I am by no means a textile guy. I can't really sew very well, but you know what, here we go. Let's see how this goes. Great thing about webbing, you can cut it and then you can seal the edges with a flame. To stitch the webbing, I'm just going to use a nice thick needle and some heavy duty cotton thread. At the moment requiring the most focus of the entire build, threading the needle. The webbing is much harder to stitch than a typical fabric, but it shouldn't be as hard as I'm making it look. Turned out the red webbing was like really tough, and I did a really bad job of stitching that together. As soon as I got onto the black webbing, all of a sudden everything was fine. I wish I'd done the whole thing in black webbing, but you know what, whatever, the red stuff looks good, and that is looking nice and strong. Does that red's more brown. Rust. It's sort of a rust-coloured webbing. It does look good. I like the colour. Anyway, so I've had these clips on, and the whole thing clips together very nicely. The next thing that's really important, I'm going to need padding, because you do not want to be carrying a big heavy puppet with no padding whatsoever. That's going to wreck your shoulders. I got this old furniture foam. This is all recycled upholstery foam. I've chopped it into pieces, I've sort of evened it up a little bit, and I've just attached it with gaffer tape. At this point, I was running out of time. I think we were like 2 days off the end of the build at this point. So speed is the name of the game. Maybe I could have done this a bit prettier, but we just needed it to get done, and I needed something that would be comfortable to operate and perform with. Now that I've got a functional backpack, I can go into our warehouse and have a little test out of the puppet as it currently stands. As you can see, I still need to cover the arms, but the body is basically there. It's just going to need some lights in it. So, what do we need to install the lights? We need snips, LED bulbs. These are G4 LED bulbs. Some cable, G4 connectors, some power adapters, heat shrink tubing, and a nice big 12-volt rechargeable lithium-ion battery. We're also going to need a heat gun to shrink the heat shrink tubing. And now we are assembling the circuit. With a circuit like this, I don't even need to solder the wires together. I can just tie them together, and then the heat shrink tubing holds the whole thing nice and tight. As long as I'm not putting too much weight on any one piece of wire, the whole thing will hold together really, really well. I like to assemble my LED lighting circuits in a tree pattern, so all the cables for all the lights are emerging from a single point that connects to the battery. By keeping all the wires at about the same length, it keeps resistance across the wire about the same for all the bulbs, so we don't end up in a drop in power across the circuit. I am by no means an expert with this stuff. I do know if you connect live to live, neutral to neutral, light bulb lights up, and that's about the extent of it for me. While I've been sorting all these lights out, Dan has been covering the remaining arm with paper for me, doing a sterling job there. Well done, Dan. God, you'd think you'd done this before, wouldn't you? And here's how the body looks with the lights in. It's starting to come together. It's starting to look like a thing. Yeah, nice. And then, of course, we've got to get it out and have a little play around. I didn't get much footage of the staff being built. That's because Dan Higgs, who's on the arm there for me, on the staff, he built it. It's also got a little smoke machine in. I didn't get any footage of that either, but you'll see it when we're out and about. And now it's the day of the parade. The weather was absolutely gorgeous, beautiful sunset, and here we are ready to go. I built the lamplighter, I performed the lamplighter. I'm in the backpack, I'm in the body, and an artist called Ben Evans is my arm operator. Dan Higgs is my steward. So many people came to the parade. It looked so good. As the lamplighter, it was our job to lead the parade along the parade route and stop to light the lamps. The lamps were built by Dan Higgs in our workshop while I was working on this. And the whole parade ended at the brilliant bamboo site in Stoke. There was fire, there was harp music, there was a shadow play telling the whole story of the parade up to that point. It was such a good parade, everything went so well, and everybody who was involved in the organising and the running of it should be thoroughly pleased with themselves. Massive congratulations to all of you, we had such a good time.
Are you spinning your little head? Wow. Such a show off.
Now that the parade is over, the lamplighter goes up into the rafters of our building, and I am left to deal with the aftermath. Well, this has been Bish Bosh episode 1. We are going to do a lot more videos like this covering our making process. If you have any questions about the way we made this puppet, if there's anything we missed out, if there's something you want to see particularly, if there's something you'd like to see us make, comment down below, let us know. Please hit the subscribe button to stay up to date with future videos. I've been Richard, this is Bish Bosh. Thank you for watching.